For decades, I watched sincere seekers pray with devotion, yet their prayers seemed to hit an invisible wall. They begged, pleaded, and repeated affirmations until exhausted. Nothing changed. Then I discovered the shocking truth Joel Goldsmith taught. Most people pray in a way that actually pushes miracles away. This isn't about faith. It's about understanding consciousness. The problem isn't God ignoring you. The problem is the very structure of how you're praying. When you beg for healing, you're affirming sickness. When you plead for abundance, you're confirming lack. Every desperate prayer reinforces the exact condition you're trying to escape. This is the invisible block stopping your miracles. Joel Goldsmith discovered that true prayer isn't about asking, convincing, or bargaining with God. It's about recognizing what already is. The moment you understand this distinction, everything shifts. Your prayers stop being transactions and become realizations. This is where miracles live, in the space of spiritual knowing, not human wanting. Think about how you've been praying. Do you find yourself explaining your problem to God in detail? Do you list reasons why you deserve help? Do you promise to be better if only this one thing changes? This is treatment prayer, and it carries a fatal assumption that something is wrong and needs fixing by an external power. Joel taught that God doesn't respond to our begging because God isn't a person dispensing favors. God is the infinite presence of wholeness, already complete, already perfect. When you pray from lack, you're operating from the belief that this wholeness is absent. You're denying the very presence you're trying to reach. The revolutionary shift is this. Stop asking God to change conditions. Instead, recognize that in spiritual reality, the problem doesn't exist. Sickness isn't real in consciousness. Lack isn't real in the kingdom. Fear has no power in the presence of infinite love. This recognition, this knowing, is what Joel called the prayer of realization. A woman came to one of Joel's classes suffering from chronic pain that doctors couldn't explain. For years, she prayed desperately, God, please take away this pain. I'll do anything. Please heal me. Nothing changed. Joel asked her a simple question. Are you trying to convince God that you're suffering, or are you recognizing God's presence? She realized she'd been doing the former. Every prayer was an argument for her pain's reality. Joel taught her to pray differently. In the presence of God, this condition has no reality. God is all, God is here, God is whole. She stopped begging and started knowing. Within weeks, the pain began dissolving. Not because God finally listened, but because she stopped affirming the problem. This is the secret. Your consciousness creates your experience. When you pray from the belief that something is wrong, you energize that wrongness. When you pray from the recognition of spiritual wholeness, you align with what already is. The miracle isn't God changing reality. The miracle is you seeing reality as it truly is. Here's what Joel Goldsmith wants you to understand. The kingdom of God is already established. Wholeness already exists. Abundance already flows. Healing is already complete in spiritual reality. Your human problem is that you're looking at the world through the lens of material sense, which shows you lack, sickness, and limitation. True prayer isn't changing God's mind. It's changing your perception from material sense to spiritual vision. When you pray, God, make me healthy, you're affirming that health is absent and needs to be created. When you pray, I recognize God's wholeness expressing as my being, you're aligning with what already is. This practice requires a complete reversal of everything you've been taught. Stop outlining, stop begging, stop trying to inform God of your problems. Instead, sit in silence and recognize the infinite presence that knows no lack, no disease, no limitation. This recognition, held in consciousness, dissolves the appearance of the problem. This is the prayer that opens miracles. A businessman on the verge of bankruptcy attended Joel's lectures. He'd been praying frantically, God, send me clients. Give me one big deal. I need money now. His business continued spiraling. Joel asked him, Are you praying to God, or are you praying to lack? The man didn't understand at first. Joel explained, Every word you speak affirms shortage. Joel taught him the principle of omnipresence. If God is infinite abundance, and God is all, then abundance is already the reality. The appearance of lack is simply a misperception. a hypnotic belief in separation from the infinite source. The businessman changed his practice. Instead of begging for money, he sat in silence, recognizing infinite abundance is the only reality. Over 3 months, not 3 days, something shifted in his consciousness. He stopped operating from desperation. New ideas came. Unexpected connections formed. Within 6 months, his business completely turned around. Not because God rewarded his new prayer technique, but because his consciousness aligned with the abundance that was always present. A mother brought her teenage son to Joel. The boy struggled with severe anxiety and panic attacks. She'd been praying intensely, "God, please calm my son. Remove his fear. Give him peace." Joel watched her pray and said gently, "Every word you speak is giving power to the fear." She was shocked. How could prayer be wrong? Joel explained that in spiritual truth, there is no fear. Fear exists only as a belief in the human mind, a sense of separation from God's presence. When you pray for God to remove fear, you're treating fear as if it's real and powerful, something that needs divine intervention to overcome. You're actually energizing it with your attention and belief. He taught her to pray differently. Sit in silence and recognize that in the presence of infinite love, fear has no existence. Don't fight it. Don't beg for its removal. Simply know it has no reality in consciousness. The mother practiced this for weeks. Gradually, she stopped treating her son's anxiety as a real condition, and her calm knowing began to lift his experience. The panic attacks decreased over several months. Joel Goldsmith taught that most people pray as if God is somewhere else, up in heaven, needing to be reached through sufficient pleading. This is the root error. God isn't distant. God is the very consciousness in which you exist. You're not trying to reach God. You're recognizing the God that is already the reality of your being. When you pray, "God, come help me," you're affirming separation. When you recognize the infinite presence is here, now, as my very consciousness, you're aligning with truth. This isn't playing with words. This is a fundamental shift in understanding. You're not a separated human trying to contact a distant deity. You're consciousness itself, and consciousness is God. This realization transforms everything. You stop begging and start knowing. You stop outlining how God should fix things and start resting in the awareness that in spiritual reality, nothing needs fixing. The appearance of the problem is the only problem, and that appearance dissolves when consciousness shifts from material sense to spiritual recognition. This is the prayer of power. A woman with a serious diagnosis came to Joel after months of desperate prayer. She'd tried everything: affirmations, visualization, bargaining with God. She was exhausted and terrified. Joel said something that shocked her. Stop trying to heal yourself. Stop trying to change the condition. Simply recognize that in God's presence this disease has no reality. She asked, "Boo, but won't I die if I don't fight it?" Joel responded, "You're not ignoring the appearance. You're recognizing a deeper truth. Spiritual reality is the only reality, and in that reality, wholeness is all that exists." She began practicing this recognition daily, not as denial, but as a return to truth. She stopped energizing the disease with fear and fighting. Over many months, not overnight, something shifted. Her body began responding. Doctors were surprised by the improvement. She didn't claim she prayed the disease away. She understood that her consciousness had stopped feeding the appearance. When you align with spiritual wholeness, the material picture adjusts. This is not magic. This is the law of consciousness Joel dedicated his life to teaching. If these transformation stories inspire you, like this video to help others find these teachings, subscribe for more Joel Goldsmith wisdom, and comment. What healing journey resonated most with you? Beyond the prayer of recognition, Joel taught the practice of listening. Most people pray by talking at God, listing needs, explaining problems, making requests. But true prayer includes silence, the art of listening for the still small voice. This isn't about hearing words. It's about feeling the presence that already knows your need before you ask. Sit in silence after your recognition. Don't fill the space with more words. Don't check if it's working. Simply rest in the awareness that infinite intelligence is present. In this listening silence, guidance comes. not always as dramatic messages, but as quiet knowing, gentle shifts in perception, sudden insights that change everything. A man struggling with a difficult decision practiced this listening prayer. Instead of asking God, "What should I do?" he sat in recognition. Infinite wisdom is present here. Then he listened. No lightning bolt came, but over days a clear knowing emerged. The answer wasn't given to him. It rose from within him, because the wisdom he sought was never separate from his consciousness. Joel taught a powerful companion technique, the practice of impersonalization. When you face a problem, your human mind immediately personalizes it. My disease, my lack, my enemy, my struggle. This personalization gives the problem reality and power. It makes it yours, something you must carry and solve through human effort. Impersonalization means recognizing that the problem isn't personal. It's an impersonal appearance, a universal belief in separation from God. The disease isn't happening to you specifically because you're being punished, or because you're weak. It's simply the human condition of believing material sense over spiritual reality. When you impersonalize, you stop taking the problem so seriously. You stop identifying with it. This isn't my disease. This is an impersonal belief in the reality of sickness, and in consciousness, it has no power. This shift removes the emotional charge, the fear, the sense of personal burden. You're not denying the appearance. You're denying its reality and power in consciousness. Another essential practice Joel emphasized, nothingization. This means recognizing that evil, lack, disease, and all forms of discord are nothing. Not that they feel like nothing. Not that their appearance is nothing. But that they have no reality in consciousness, no power in spiritual truth, no existence in the kingdom of God. When a problem appears overwhelming, practice saying inwardly, "This is nothing." In the presence of God, this condition is nothing. It has no law to support it, no reality to sustain it, no power to continue. You're not denying what your eyes see. You're denying its authority over consciousness. A man facing a lawsuit that could destroy him financially practiced nothingization. Instead of fighting fear all day, he repeatedly recognized, in spiritual reality this has no power. It's nothing. Not denial of the legal situation, but denial of its power to separate him from the infinite presence. Over months, circumstances shifted in unexpected ways. The case resolved without the disaster he feared. His consciousness, not his efforts, changed the outcome. Joel taught that these practices, recognition, listening, impersonalization, and nothingization, work together as a complete spiritual practice. You don't use them mechanically like magic formulas. You grow in understanding what they mean. Recognition aligns you with spiritual reality. Listening opens you to divine guidance. Impersonalization removes the emotional charge. Nothingization denies power to appearances. Start with recognition in every prayer. God is all. God is here. God is the only reality. Then listen in silence, letting that truth settle into consciousness. If fear arises about a specific problem, impersonalize it. This isn't my personal curse. It's an impersonal belief in limitation. Finally, nothingize it. In consciousness, this has no reality or power. This isn't a quick fix. Joel never promised instant results. He promised that faithful practice of these principles would gradually lift your consciousness from human sense to spiritual awareness. And as your consciousness shifts, your experience must shift, because consciousness and experience are one. This is the law. This is how prayer truly works. Now let's address the challenges you'll face. The biggest obstacle is impatience. You'll practice recognition once, twice, 10 times, and the problem will still appear unchanged. Your human mind will scream, "This isn't working. I need to do something." This is the critical moment where most people abandon the practice. Joel warned against this trap. Spiritual practice isn't like taking medicine where you expect quick results. You're not trying to change the outer picture directly. You're transforming consciousness, and consciousness changes gradually as old beliefs are replaced by spiritual understanding. Sometimes it takes days. Often it takes weeks or months. Rarely is it instant. A woman practiced recognition daily for her financial crisis, After 3 weeks, nothing changed externally. She felt like giving up. Then Joel's words returned to her. Are you practicing to change conditions or to know truth? She realized she was still outcome-focused. She shifted to practicing recognition simply because it's true, regardless of appearances. Within 2 months, unexpected opportunities opened. Another challenge, doubt. Even as you practice recognition, a voice whispers, "Who are you kidding? You're just playing word games while the real problem gets worse." This doubt feels rational, like facing reality, but it's actually the voice of material sense trying to maintain control over your consciousness. Joel taught that doubt is part of the journey. Don't fight it. Don't feel guilty about it. Simply recognize, this doubt is also an impersonal appearance. It has no power in consciousness. Continue your practice anyway. You're not trying to feel perfect certainty. You're choosing to align with spiritual truth whether you feel it working or not. A man dealing with a chronic illness experienced crushing doubt after a month of practice with no improvement. He wanted to quit. Then he understood. He was waiting for the body to prove the practice worked before he fully committed. That's backwards. The practice works in consciousness first, and the body follows. He persevered despite doubt. After 3 more months, real changes began appearing. The third major challenge, the temptation to return to old prayer patterns. When crisis hits, your conditioned response is to beg, plead, and bargain with God. You'll find yourself mid-crisis, automatically praying, "God, please fix this now." There's no shame in this. It's human nature. But it's also the moment to choose differently. Joel said gently, "Catch yourself when this happens." "Oh, I'm praying from lack again. I'm treating the problem as real and powerful again." Then consciously return to recognition. In God's presence, this condition has no reality. Wholeness is the only truth. You won't do this perfectly. You'll slip back dozens of times. That's okay. Each time you catch yourself and return, you're strengthening spiritual consciousness. A mother whose child faced surgery found herself constantly praying in panic, "God, please let the surgery go well." Each time she caught herself, she paused and recognized, in spiritual reality, God's wholeness is already complete. I rest in that truth. The surgery went smoothly, but more importantly, her peace remained throughout because her consciousness had shifted. The final challenge, other people's beliefs. When you're practicing spiritual recognition, those around you may pressure you with fear and doubt. You're being irresponsible. You need to worry about this. You can't just pretend everything's fine. Their fear can shake your practice, making you question whether you're in denial. Joel taught, you're not ignoring practical responsibilities. You're not denying the appearance. You're simply refusing to give it power in consciousness. You can see doctors, take wise action, and handle practical affairs while still recognizing spiritual truth. The two aren't contradictory. You live in the world without letting the world's beliefs dominate your consciousness. Protect your practice. You don't need to explain it to everyone. You don't need to defend it. Simply continue your inner recognition while handling outer affairs wisely. Some people in your life will understand, others won't. That's their journey. Your job is maintaining your own consciousness in truth, regardless of others' reactions or beliefs about what you're doing. If these challenge-breaking techniques speak to your heart, like to support this content, subscribe for advanced spiritual practices, and comment, which obstacle are you ready to transform now? Let's explore how this practice integrates into daily life. A teacher faced a classroom of disruptive students daily. She'd been praying, "God, help me control these kids. Give me patience." Nothing improved. Then she learned Joel's teaching and changed her approach completely. Instead of praying about the student's behavior, she practiced recognition. In spiritual reality, these children are expressions of divine consciousness. Their true nature is harmony and wisdom. She didn't demand they change. She changed her perception. She stopped seeing problems and started recognizing spiritual identity beneath appearances. The shift took several weeks. Gradually, the classroom atmosphere changed. Not because the children suddenly became angels, but because her consciousness no longer energized the discord. When she stopped treating their behavior as a real problem needing to be fixed, her presence itself became calming. This is consciousness in action, the practical power of recognition in everyday situations. A salesman applied these principles to his work. Previously, he prayed desperately before each meeting. God, please let this client say yes. I need this sale. He approached every interaction from lack and fear. After studying Joel's teachings, he transformed his practice completely. Before each meeting, he sat in recognition. Infinite abundance is already established. I'm here to serve, not to get. Whatever unfolds is the perfect activity of divine intelligence. He stopped needing specific outcomes. He stopped approaching people as sources of what he lacked. He became an instrument of service rather than a desperate pursuer of sales. His income didn't double overnight. But over 6 months, something profound shifted. He felt free. He stopped living in anxious striving. And paradoxically, his results improved because people sensed his genuine presence rather than desperate need. This is how spiritual practice transforms work, not by manipulating outcomes, but by freeing consciousness from bondage to conditions. A couple on the verge of divorce began practicing Joel's teachings together. They'd been praying separately. God, change my spouse, make them understand me, fix what's wrong with them. Each prayer was an accusation, treating the other as the problem needing divine correction. Joel's teaching showed them a different way. They began practicing recognition together. The infinite presence of love is the reality of our union. Beneath all appearances, we are spiritual beings expressing divine harmony. They stopped trying to change each other. They stopped praying for God to fix the other person. The transformation took almost a year. Old patterns resurfaced many times. But each time, they returned to recognition rather than blame. They practiced seeing each other's spiritual identity beneath human failings. Slowly, genuine love returned. Not because they became perfect people, but because they stopped treating each other as problems and started recognizing the presence beneath the appearance. An artist struggled with creative blocks and self-doubt. She'd pray desperately, God, give me inspiration. Let me create something good. Help me succeed. Every prayer reinforced her sense of being a separated, limited person needing divine help to produce anything worthwhile. Joel's principles transformed her creative practice. She began recognizing, infinite creativity is the nature of consciousness itself. I am not a blocked person. I am consciousness, and consciousness is always creative. She stopped begging for inspiration. She recognized that inspiration isn't something that comes and goes. It's the nature of the consciousness she is. Her creative flow didn't return instantly, but over months she noticed the blocks dissolving. Not because God finally answered her prayers, but because she stopped identifying as a blocked artist. She began creating from recognition of her true nature, rather than from fear of limitation. Her work deepened. Her joy returned. This is spiritual practice transforming creative life through consciousness shift. Now you understand the complete picture Joel Goldsmith revealed. Prayer isn't about begging, convincing, or bargaining with an external deity. Prayer is the recognition of what already is. God isn't somewhere else, needing to be reached. God is the infinite presence that is consciousness itself, and you exist within that presence. Every problem you face exists as an appearance in material sense. But in spiritual reality, in consciousness, these problems have no existence. They're beliefs, hypnotic suggestions accepted by the human mind as real. When you pray from recognition of spiritual truth, you withdraw power from these appearances. This doesn't mean pretending problems don't exist. It means recognizing they have no reality in consciousness, no power in truth, no law to support them. As you practice this recognition faithfully, your consciousness shifts from human sense to spiritual awareness. And as consciousness shifts, experience must shift, because they're one and the same. Joel dedicated his entire life to teaching this revolutionary approach to prayer and spiritual living. He saw countless individuals transform not because they learned better techniques, but because they understood consciousness differently. They stopped being beggars at God's door and recognized themselves as consciousness itself. This path requires commitment. You won't master it in days or weeks. You'll fall back into old patterns repeatedly. You'll doubt. You'll struggle with impatience. You'll face challenges from your own mind and from others around you. All of this is normal. All of this is part of the journey from human sense to spiritual awareness. But if you persist, If you keep returning to recognition despite appearances, despite doubt, despite slow progress, your consciousness will gradually transform, and as it does, you'll discover that the miracles you sought were never blocked by God. They were blocked by your own consciousness operating from belief in lack, disease, and limitation rather than spiritual wholeness. The practices Joel taught, recognition, listening, impersonalization, nothingization, aren't separate techniques to try and discard. They're facets of one understanding. Consciousness is all, and consciousness is God. When you align your awareness with this truth, the appearances of discord must dissolve because they have no reality to sustain them. Start today, not tomorrow when conditions are better, not when you understand more perfectly. Right now, wherever you are, whatever problem you face, practice recognition. In the presence of infinite wholeness, this condition has no reality. God is all. God is here. God is the only power. Then listen in silence. Let this truth settle into your consciousness. Do this daily, multiple times daily. Not to change conditions, but to know truth. Make it your spiritual practice, your foundation. When doubt comes, when impatience comes, when problems seem overwhelming, return to recognition. This is your anchor. This is how consciousness shifts from human sense to spiritual awareness. This is how you stop blocking miracles and start living in them. Joel Goldsmith's final gift to us is this understanding. You are not a human being trying to reach God. You are consciousness, and consciousness is God expressing. The kingdom is already established. Wholeness already exists. Abundance already flows. Healing is already complete. Your only work is recognizing this truth. Stop praying to change God's mind. Start praying to change your perception. Stop begging for miracles. Start recognizing that in consciousness, the miracle is already accomplished. The problem was never God withholding from you. The problem was your consciousness operating from beliefs in limitation rather than recognition of infinite wholeness. Walk forward in this understanding. Live from this recognition. When problems appear, practice Joel's teachings. Recognize spiritual reality. Listen in silence. Impersonalize the condition. Nothingize its power. Not once, not twice, but as a way of life. This is the prayer that opens all miracles. Not by changing what is, but by revealing what always was. If your spiritual understanding expanded through these Joel Goldsmith secrets, like this video, subscribe for more transformative teachings, and comment, "I am transformed," to confirm your new path.